of thousands of dollars of cocaine is missing from the property room. I'm Kristen Price as another local law enforcement agency investigates more missing drugs.
After 30 years, the cold case murders of a teenage girl and a beloved father are heating up here in the crime lab.
On behalf of my family, we would like to thank all who have sent their condolences and all who sit here today to honor my father.
A masterclass in honor and precision as we follow the entire procession in honor of Sergeant Dennis Moore.
Good evening. Good to have you with us here for 17 News at 5. I'm Tammy Melchak.
And I'm Jim Scott. Sergeant Dennis Moore of the Bakersfield Police Department was sworn to protect and to serve, which he did with honor and dignity right up until the moment he passed away last week as he was getting ready for work. Today, he was laid to rest with all the ceremonial traditions fit for a fallen officer. We have 17 News team coverage tonight from the very visual procession of peace officers through the streets of Bakersfield to the memorial service to the cemetery. And we begin with 17's Maddie Jansen, who was inside that service today when so many people spoke of the man they knew and loved. Maddie?
Jim and Tammy, hundreds gathered here at River Lakes Church this morning in the sanctuary. Row after row of uniformed officers from various agencies. Black bars across their badges, remembering their brother in blue.
Law enforcement is the noblest of professions.
A uniform once worn with pride, laid out in a solemn display. The man who once wore it remembered today with both laughter and tears.
He was our rock and our role model and the most caring father a girl could ask for.
Throughout our family struggles and my father's moral battles, I always idolized his commitment to his family.
Family members' shoulders shook with tears. His loved ones surrounded by the brotherhood Sergeant Moore was part of for so long.
Gina, Jarrett, Ashley, Melissa, I want you to know that you're not alone. Look around this church. You have neighbors, family, friends, and co-workers that are here to support you at any given time when you need our help.
Chief Lyle Martin recalled both the sergeant and the man behind the badge as loving and loyal and conscientious.
Going through his personnel file, that word I counted 27 times. Conscientious. In fact, dedication was listed 31 times.
But family says that dedication to the force and the stress that it brought cost him his life. Sergeant Moore died last Wednesday of a heart attack. Still, it's his heart he's being remembered for.
Our community is a better place because of the heart of Sergeant Moore.
More than 2 decades of dedication wrapped up in a flag.
I feel peace knowing that Dennis has earned the rank of Guardian Angel.
A noble salute, a heartfelt tribute, and a final goodbye for their brother in blue as Sergeant Moore was carried off to his final resting place at Greenlawn Southwest Cemetery.
Dennis Allen Moore. End of watch. One more date, my friend. 8/9/2017. My birthday. I love you.
And Sergeant Moore's final 2 rides were quite the sights to see, covering 3 corners of our city, from the northeast here to the northwest, and then finally to the southwest. That's where we find 17's Danny Freeman. He's live this evening at Greenlawn Southwest Mortuary with a look back. Danny.
Sergeant Dennis Moore's funeral procession was an impressive display of precision as the city of Bakersfield got one last chance to say goodbye to its fallen officer. Officers began to gather at Greenlawn Cemetery on the Panama Bluffs not long after sunrise this morning, raising a flag and readying traffic, all to deliver the late Sergeant Dennis Moore to River Lakes Church while allowing the city to pay its respects. The motorcade started its roughly 10-mile journey across the city at 8 a.m. Dozens of squad cars, ambulances, and more rounding up Golden State Avenue on its way to Olive Drive. Here at Golden State Avenue, as the procession moves on, you can really feel the camaraderie of all of Bakersfield agencies. You see the firefighters saluting as the police cars roll by. As the hearse arrived at River Lakes Church on Callaway, salutes continued. And Police Chief Lyle Martin began his remarks acknowledging the overwhelming display of support from the city and agencies from across the state.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the allied agencies who've come out to support us in our time of need.
Afterwards, Bakersfield Police Lieutenant Gary Carresco reflected on taking part in today's procession.
I was overwhelmed at the number of community members standing on the side of the road, saluting or holding their hands over their heart, excuse me, showing their support for Dennis and what he contributed to the community.
Following the church service, Sergeant Moore's body was escorted by a smaller procession to the southwest, closing parts of the 99 to bring the fallen to Green Lawn Mortuary Southwest. As Sergeant Moore passed on, flags lowered as the day continued. Now, it is here at this mortuary where Bakersfield police confirm that Sergeant Moore will be cremated after Bakersfield had one last time to salute its fallen hero. Live from Southwest Bakersfield, Danny Freeman, 17 News.
Danny, thanks. Although today was somber, there was laughter as those who knew Sergeant Moore best shared their memories at a reception following the service. 7 News' Alex Fisher joins us with that part of our team coverage. Alex?
Tammy, during the funeral and lunch reception, police officers, friends, and family members shared their favorite stories of Sergeant Dennis Moore.
Hundreds of family, friends, and members of law enforcement gathered under one roof to let loose a little and share their favorite stories of Dennis Moore.
When he was little, wearing his dad's boots, and he'd have them up, they'd be up to his knees.
Dennis, he just always made everybody laugh. He was a great guy.
I have no doubt he is one of those angels up there.
We had an incident one time where Dennis angered the sergeant, and in return, the sergeant made Dennis write all the reports for the rest of the night. And Dennis never angered that sergeant again, but we got laughs out of that for many years.
Happy memories now difficult to share.
The early years, it didn't matter where we were. If we were camping, we were at a friend's house. When 8 o'clock rolled around, Dennis would always pull a Houdini. He would disappear from the gathering, or he would slowly inch away from the campfire towards his trailer, so no one would notice him making his exit. Or we could be at his house, and he'd simply go to bed.
I can't tell you of one time Dennis did not make sure to ask how my wife Jenny and my daughter Haley were doing. That's the line that gets me every time.
You hear people talk about how law enforcement is a family. It's not until moments like this when you realize that it's so deeply true. And we're all experiencing the loss of one of our family members.
And while those folks had their opportunity to share their memories of Sergeant Moore, you can get involved as well. If you would like to offer condolences, you can send an email to condolences@bakersfieldpd.us or send cards to the police department on Truxtun Avenue. And in lieu of flowers, the family suggests donations to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in honor of Sergeant Dennis Moore. Reporting in studio, Alex Fisher, 17 News.
Alex, thank you. Sergeant Dennis Moore is the 9th Bakersfield police officer whose death is considered in the line of duty. The most recent death was that of Officer David Nelson, who was killed in a vehicle pursuit in June of 2015. 3 other BPD officers were killed in motorcycle crashes, one by a fall, one who was struck by a train, and one who was shot, dating back to 1903, when Thomas Jefferson Packard was shot and killed in the Joss House shootout. Sergeant Moore served and protected the people of Bakersfield for over 20 years. Here's 17's Jason Galvin with a look back at his career.
Sergeant Moore spent most of his life here in Kern County. He married a Bakersfield woman and dedicated himself to protecting our community. Dennis Moore was born December 15, 1969 in Canoga Park. His family moved to Pine Mountain Club when he was a child. Moore attended Bakersfield High School, where he graduated in 1988. After spending time at Bakersfield College, Moore enrolled in the Bakersfield Police Academy, where he graduated in 1991. Moore served the Arvin community until 1997 when he transferred to Bakersfield Police Department. He enjoyed a steady rise through the police ranks, becoming a senior officer in 2004 and a sergeant in 2011. Moore met his wife, Gina, in 1989. The two were married in 1993. They spent 23 years together. They had 3 children, Jarrett, Ashley, and Melissa. Sergeant Moore's family says he was just 2 years from retirement. Jason Galvin, 17 News.
And we have continuing coverage of Sergeant Moore's funeral on our website, kerngoldenempire.com, as well as our KGET social media pages. If you would like to see this morning's service, it is on our KGET Facebook page. You can also follow today's events with our hashtag EndOfWatchBPD on Facebook and on Twitter.
From honoring a fallen officer, we make the tough turn now to an update on a story we've been following for months. It's a story about law enforcement investigating its own, working to preserve the honor of the profession. Our Kristen Price broke the story back in May of detectives stealing drugs and selling them. Kristen has been digging ever since then, and now, with documents uncovered through the Public Records Act, she has the latest bombshell, a 17 News exclusive. Even more drugs, a lot of them, are missing. Kristen?
The drugs are missing from the Kern County Sheriff's Department, and we've learned it's connected to Demasio Diaz. The disgraced BPD detective is already behind bars, convicted of stealing meth from the BPD and conspiring to sell it. This latest revelation of missing drugs comes right on the heels of former sheriff's deputies Logan August and Derek Penny being sentenced for stealing and selling marijuana from KCSO evidence. Both were given probation. Neither is headed to prison.
And I'm just appreciative of that because I get a second chance with my children. I get a second chance as a husband and as a community member of Kern County.
I'm ready to just move on and move from here.
I submitted a public records request to find out what else was unaccounted for. Turns out marijuana isn't the only drug missing. Sheriff spokesman Ray Pruitt says 1.9 pounds of cocaine is unaccounted for, worth approximately $50,000. Pruitt says it's part of the federal investigation into Bakersfield Police Detective Demasio Diaz. But that's all Pruitt could say, citing an administrative investigation.
Ray knows more than I do then.
I spoke with Sheriff Donnie Youngblood about the missing cocaine. But it was discovered at some point recently that there was cocaine missing?
If you're talking about the federal investigation, you'd have to check with them.
So I tried. The U.S. Attorney's Office that prosecuted both the KCSO and BPD corruption cases said they couldn't provide me the information. I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI, but the Bureau hasn't responded yet. This isn't the first time evidence has been missing from the Sheriff's Department. In 2008, a 19-year-old civilian employee stole 20 guns. At the time, the sheriff had this to say.
I'm angry over this whole episode and ultimately learned that he had taken several firearms from the sheriff's property room and they'd been disposed in various locations.
With the recent revelation, the sheriff isn't as forthcoming.
I'm not going to speak on the federal investigation because it's not ours, and I really, it'd be inappropriate for me to do that.
We posted the entire interview with the sheriff on our website, kerngoldenempire.com, and we'll continue to follow this story. As soon as we get a response from the federal government, we'll let you know. Kristen Price, 17 News.
2 local murder cases pushed to the back burner are now being dusted off.
It was hard not having him there. It was hard not being able to say goodbye.
30 years after the brutal murders of a beloved father and a teenage girl went cold, we get detectives to give the unsolved crimes a second look. A 17 News special report coming up next. Plus, new at 5:30.
Students and staff in Arvin say they need more space, but the district says there's a lot to consider. I'm Lori Lizarraga with why the potential for a new high school in Lamont is causing some controversy.
And still ahead here at 5, his dedication is noteworthy. 4 decades of service, not enough to keep this music man in retirement and out of the classroom.
A seasonal day today, temperatures close to average at 95 degrees, but will it last? That's ahead in Pinpoint Weather. But first, look at 17 News sunrise tomorrow.
17's Alex Fisher is deep in the August No Sugar Challenge.
This is a sweet treat without sugar.
He's cooking up some no sugar recipes to help keep that sweet tooth satisfied.
Today we're going to use bananas.
Join Alex every Friday morning on 17 News at Sunrise. Yummy No Sugar Challenge recipes.
Welcome back. For 3 decades, 2 brutal murder cases, one of a teenage girl, the other a church-going father, were sitting on the shelf at the Sheriff's Department, growing colder with every year that passed, until now.
17's Olivia LaVoice joins us as her continued effort to shed light on some of Kern County's cold cases helped get these 2 cases re-examined at the county's crime lab. Olivia?
Jim, after the families of the victims reached out to us, we contacted the Sheriff's Department to see what could be done to solve these cases 30 years later. It turns out neither case had been tested for DNA until we asked about it. October 1987, Mary Chavez had just celebrated her 17th birthday when her nude body was found in a Bakersfield oil field. The teenager was beaten to death.
I really was interested in pursuing, trying to get to see if they're working on my sister's case or if there was a way we could do that. I didn't think that you would take it and run with it as you did.
Mary's brother reached out to 17 News last year, asking for help in finding answers.
In the beginning, they told me, they said that it was most likely someone she knew. And so living with the idea that this could be somebody potentially that I know, this could be, have I lived my whole life around somebody that's done this? I don't know. It haunts you. It really does.
We agreed to try to help and continued to look into DNA testing in cold cases. If you know of a case that you're hopeful will one day be solved through DNA testing, we'd like to hear about it. Earlier this year, the day after we did a story on how forensic science has affected various local cases, a woman walked into 17 News with 34-year-old police reports in hand.
I've never contacted anybody before until I saw the news piece that you did, and when I met you, I just felt a closeness that I knew that you would help me.
In August 1983, Ann's father, Donald Nielsen, was beaten to death near Breckenridge Road and Comanche Drive. Reports on both cases showed physical evidence collected at both crime scenes years before DNA testing was discovered. So we reached out to the Sheriff's Department. Both cases were then immediately reviewed, reopened, and sent out here to the crime lab to be tested for DNA for the first time ever. A few months ago, a match was made to fingerprints from the Donald Nielsen crime scene. Officials have the new suspect's DNA, which will be compared to the DNA found at the scene. They also have DNA from suspects in the Mary Chavez case that will be used for comparison. These discoveries all made by a dedicated investigator, Sergeant Joel Swanson.
He's been amazing. He's been the person I've needed all these years to really get in the file, dig deep, find those things that only he could find.
The new detective assigned makes me feel like, hey, it's not a box sitting on a dusty shelf with cobwebs on it. There's actually somebody looking at this, and even 30 years later, good does prevail at some point.
Investigators expect to have the DNA results back in both cases very soon, within about 2 weeks, so long as the crime lab doesn't get too busy in between. As always, if there's a cold case you'd like us to look into, we'd like to hear about it. In studio, I'm Olivia LaVoice, 17 News.
A bizarre traffic accident takes the life of a young man in Bakersfield. His best friend severely injured.
Tonight, that young man is headed back home to South Carolina as his family struggles to pay his medical and air travel bills. How you can help. New at 5:30. Okay, it's time for a reality check in the Pinpoint Weather Center. Here's Alyssa.
Temperatures today are very average, but hey, it could be worse. We could be in the triple digits, and yes, the heat is back. That's what Jim's referring to. Looking at 95 here in Bakersfield, 94 into Wasco, 93 in Taft, 81 in Fraser Park, 82 in Tehachapi, 88 over in Lake Isabella, 95 in Mojave. Our humidity value at 30%, the dew point's at 59, so that's starting to creep back up. A little bit more moisture flowing in, and winds out of the west-northwest at 13 miles per hour. Air quality has not been too terribly bad. In fact, as we head into tomorrow, looking at 93 into the moderate range. Hardly a cloud in the sky here, but we are still watching as some moisture in the form of pop-up showers continue here as we make our way up near Yosemite. Bishop, you are probably seeing just some clouds, but as we make our way west of that, one isolated cell trying to produce some heavy downpours also into the Tulare County area, seeing some of that activity too. And we're looking overall at a pattern here where in Kern County, we're not seeing anything going on. We do have some instability though present, and when we add the sunlight to it, we have that daylight heating and the moisture present, so that does sometimes result in pop-up showers. And that's what we're seeing right now into the Central Sierra. Here are areas of low pressure here at the surface, but we also have one developing in the upper levels as well. And that's going to move in as we head into the weekend. And as that happens, we'll add more clouds, a little bit more moisture, so it's going to feel a little more humid as we head into the weekend. And at this point, your forecast does call for a little bit of a warm up too. 100 degrees as we head into our Friday, 101 then on Saturday, 99 on Sunday, and then the eclipse on Monday. Temperatures then around 98 into the afternoon. The morning should be pleasant though. Into the mountains, mid 80s with a few more clouds on the way. Overnight lows will be into the mid to upper 50s. And into the Kern River Valley, looking at mid 90s. And then for the solar eclipse on Monday, we'll be at 92 degrees. And of course, all eyes, no pun intended, getting ready to watch that eclipse. And I'm going to have some important tips on what to do when you are trying to view the eclipse coming up at 5:30.
All right, very good.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
Thanks. Well, he retired after 30 years in the classroom.
But his passion for music pulled Mr. Morrison out of the easy chair and back to campus. Why he decided to let the music play. And 17 News at 5 continues.
Welcome back. He's changing lives one note at a time.
Despite retiring last year, an elementary school band teacher is back again this year, and he's working for free. 17's Tabitha Mills in studio now with this man's love of music and his love for his students, described as so grandioso.
That's right, Jim. Grandioso, a musical term that loosely means to play grandly. Appropriate in this case, as Mr. Arnold Morrison has played a grand part in the lives of many in the Delano community. As soon as the bell rings at Fremont Elementary School, you can find students, instruments in hand, marching to Mr. Arnold Morrison's class.
Ready, go. B, rest.
It's awesome.
How many rests are there?
3.
Tres, that's right. These kids all want to be here. Wait, left, 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 right, left.
So does Mr. Morrison.
Simply because I love what I do, and I really love helping out these kids. Go.
Although sometimes offbeat and off-key, this is a masterpiece.
Mr. Morrison is the reason why I want to be a musician.
Mr. Morrison, originally from Los Angeles, was inspired to make a difference in Delano 38 years ago when he signed on to start a new band program in the Delano Union Elementary School District. Delano is a city of roughly 54,000 people, 10,000 of which are in one of 2 state prisons or the correctional facility. It's rural, low income, and crime-ridden.
I do everything I can to get instruments in the hands of these kids, because for every instrument that I can get, there's one more chair that's filled in this band room, and it's filled with joy and it's filled with love. Right? Yeah. Okay, good.
At the end of last school year, Mr. Morrison retired, but he couldn't stay away. As the school searched for a new band teacher, Mr. Morrison started teaching again.
What am I doing? What's happening?
As a volunteer for free.
Not so loud.
He really is irreplaceable. It just really speaks to how dedicated he is to the community of Delano and how music is just a part of his soul.
Left, right, left. A lot of people ask the question, well, if you ever win the lottery, what would you do with all that money? And most people will say, oh, I'd buy an island in the Caribbean and I'd live there. Not me. I'd stay right here and I'd spend all of that money on instruments for these kids. Then please let me know. I'd love to have you in my band. This is going to give you kind of the...
Some of the children at Fremont cannot afford to buy or rent an instrument. Mr. Morrison often pays out of his own pocket to help. If you have any instruments you would like to donate to the program or would like to help in any way, you can send me an email, tabithamills@kget.com, and I can get you in touch with Mr. Morrison. Tabitha Mills, 17 News.
Wow, what
Thanks,
a special
Tabs.
teacher.
Wow, what an impact he's had.
That's amazing.
Incredible. Still ahead. History or hate? There's a renewed debate in this country swirling around Confederate statues in America. And President Trump is weighing in on Twitter.
And terror in Barcelona. A van plows into people on a crowded street, leaving 12 dead and dozens injured. We're back after the break.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire. This is 17 News at 5:30.
And welcome back. We begin this half hour with education news. More than 1,600 signatures from people living in southern Kern County got the attention of the Kern High School District Board of Trustees last week.
And those signatures come from residents of Arvin, Lamont, and surrounding communities coming together to show their support for a new high school in Lamont in order to ease overcrowding. But can the district build one? 17's Lori Lizarraga did some research and joins us now with what she's learned. Lori?
Well, a new school year has just begun, and the Kern High School District is already under fire, with talk of a new high school in Lamont becoming controversial.
Mid-August and the start of another school year in Kern County. But the nerves of some Arvin High students are more than first day jitters.
Getting overpopulated. It's getting very uncomfortable to go on the buses, to be on campus, like getting lunch. There's a lot of kids shoving, pushing, just to get in line in order to get their lunch.
Junior Kevin Cruz articulating just a few points from his laundry list of concerns after 2 years at Arvin High.
There's a discussion about all the growth in the south and the northwest and how they need to change the boundary lines to better deal with the growing population. But here in Arvin High School, we've been dealing with overcrowding issues since I was in high school.
And students aren't the only ones expressing frustration with long-term overcapacity. On the buses, in the lunch line, and in class.
If you want to stay for tutoring, you go to the library and they'll help you out. But sometimes it's like there's a little bit of teachers and they can't really get to you sometimes. So you just have to wait and see if you get a time with them.
My concerns are not the staff or administration at Arvin High. This has to do with capacity issues, and this has to do with transportation issues and accessibility.
So we spoke with Arvin High Principal Ed Watts, who was eager to address these concerns. He says Arvin High has done everything right to accommodate its growing population. For example, 29 portable classrooms have been added to the 83-acre campus as the number of students steadily climbs. And while capacity has been exceeded by hundreds of students in Arvin, Watts feels there are other solutions to be explored before talking new high school. And KHSD board member Joey O'Connell agrees, which is why he formed a committee.
Starting a high school somewhere, it's a very complex issue. You have to take into account so many things. That's what this committee is all about. We're trying to discover what the challenges are to building a school in Lamont.
Some 1,400 students are bused in or dropped off at Arvin from Lamont each week. And while the district acknowledges a nearly 30% overcapacity rate, they also say there are obvious roadblocks to building a high school in Lamont.
We're seriously looking at it, and we hope that we're able to work through those challenges. But at the very top of those challenges would be things like, well, Lamont sits on a floodplain.
Still, with the development of 160 new homes underway in Arvin and projected local growth showing no signs of slowing.
There's a lot of growth that is happening in Arvin right now. There's a lot of new home construction. We're investing in economic development, hoping to attract new businesses here. So Arvin's going to continue to grow. This problem is not going away.
It looks like the conversation on the way to a solution will be a long one.
As a parent, as a teacher, as a community member, this is all about our students and our children in this community. We just want the best for them.
Principal Watts and the KHSD board say they're eager to continue working with the Arvin and Lamont communities. But of course, a long-term solution will take time. Lori Lizarraga, 17 News.
Lori, thanks. Hunter Wayne Scott, the South Carolina man who survived a tragic accident in South Bakersfield earlier this month, is making his way back home tonight. Wayne Scott underwent back surgery at Kern Medical for injuries he suffered when a trailer broke loose from a pickup truck, hitting him and killing his best friend. 17's Mary Kate Paquette has been following this story, and she joins us now with an update as the family struggles to cover the cost of his recovery. Mary Kate.
Jim, 18-year-old Hunter Wayne Scott was on a cross-country mission trip with 32-year-old Michael Evans. The pair had been to 20 states before a pit stop and a breakdown in Bakersfield turned tragic.
Hunter Wayne Scott and Mike Evans set out July 23rd with one goal: spread the word of Jesus.